Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ratna Irawati. I will try to explain about systemic functional linguistics in language education. Systemic functional linguistics, or SFL, has been used throughout the world as a discourse analytic approach and more recently as a framework for implementing pedagogy in the classroom. SFL has much to offer teachers as a pedagogical approach. The integration of SFL into teacher education and continuing professional learning has been shown to have a positive impact on developing teachers' knowledge about language, their ability to instruct students by focusing on language and literacy development, and their focus on critical components of language for diverse learners. SFL theory does not provide teacher educators with a developed curriculum for implementation. Therefore, the ways in which it has been used across teacher education have varied depending on teachers' level of instruction, elementary, secondary, or tertiary. Familiarity with SFL concepts and preservice or in service status. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to SFL inclusion in teacher education, but some principles derived from SFL in teacher education literature may enable teacher educators to consider how this theory of language and pedagogical framework can be used in teacher education programs. And then I will give a review about video entitled Language Involving Some Systemic Functional Reflection on the History of Meaning by a linguist, Michael Halliday. In the video, Michael Halliday told us the history of language. There are three distinct history. The first is history of language as system, its phylogenesis. The second, history of the individual speaker ontogenesis. And the third is history of each instance of language of the text. It can state language as evolving, language as developing, and language as unfolding. Michael Halliday also said human language has co-evolved along with the human brain. The immediate environment of language is the brain itself. The brain is being seen as the interface between language and the two poles of the material environment. There are expression pole and content pole. In expression pole, it called psychological systems, the articulatory articulation, and auditory perception that are involved in the production and the reception of speech. In content pole, it means phenomena called context. There are culture context and also situation context, stratum of language. It also called eco-social context. Michael Halliday also said history of meaning in children. He said language develops children progress from a non-revering proto-language to a referential language. It's called his adult sense, means it's post-infancy sense. Then they progress from proper to common reference, from individual reference to class reference. After that, they progressed from concrete to abstract reference, from the sensible to the imaginable. Then finally, from congruent to metaphorical reference, or from actual to virtual reference. This series of developmental steps referring, then generalizing, then abstracting, then metaphorizing or metaphor writing. This is match in the progression of context in which meanings are exchanged. And he also talked about components to make the meaning potential of a speech community. The first one is there are prodigious resources for construing complex areas of experience. The second, people without writing often memorize and transmit large quantities of coherent text, including long and complicated narratives and rituals. And the last or the third is different tongues, different language, or divergent varieties or discursive abilities. In conclusion, he said that he's not sure semiotic power has full meaning potential of the individual, of the speech fellowship, or of the language is or is not a meaningful concept. But it's worthwhile trying to find out. So I think we have to try to find it out. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.